Right, we're on. Yes, people, welcome back to Process. Today we are joined by two handsome young fellas from the If You Care Share Foundation. Matty and Thomas, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Thank you. Great to be here. What an introduction, by the way.
Oh, hey, it's got to be done.
Mate, I was just thinking as well, I can't wait until I can have a trim. I certainly don't feel like very handsome at the minute.
Hey, mate, I was debating, I've got the cap down here just in case. I just came out of the shower. I've got the cap here just in case. Worst case scenario, it needs to be done. But yeah, got to be honest. And also,
I wasn't really expecting to be called handsome with this kind of mop on my head. I'm kind of just embracing it now.
Hey, we're all holding the lockdown trims pretty well, I think. We're doing all right. We're holding our own. Yeah, I was going to say, Matty as well, one of my online clients. We've been working together for a while, so we'll touch on that later on about the whole side of training within lockdown and how important it is to obviously keep your routine going. But before we jump into that, if you could talk a little bit, I'll let one of you take it away. Talk a bit about your work with If You Care Share, the foundation, how it started, and kind of what are you working with?
Spot on. Tom, do you want me to go and then you follow on?
Yeah, go on, you crack on.
So If You Care Share started in 2005. It was started by myself and my family. The reason it was started is I lost my older brother to suicide, Dan. Dan was 19 when he took his own life and didn't show any signs of struggle, didn't show any signs of what he was going through. And still now we kind of don't really know why. And after we lost Dan, so I was 10 at the time, and we just made the decision we wanted to help other people. You know, kind of the thing that stayed with us throughout it is I always said I just wanted to stop one person going through what I went through as a brother. And we do that in a lot of different ways now. One of the main things that we do and what me and Tom kind of focus on is just talking to young people that it's okay to struggle. It's okay to not feel okay. We do that in loads of different places. So we work in schools, primary schools and secondary schools. But we are very lucky that we work a lot with professional football clubs as well. So work in partnership with the Premier League, the LFE and the WSL as well. I always say we'll kind of talk to anybody that'll listen to us, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And we do a lot of work for people who are struggling themselves. So we support people in the Northeast, support people who have unfortunately lost someone as well. But yeah, for me and Tom, we're out majority of the time under normal circumstances, doing loads of different workshops and stuff. Obviously behind the screen at this moment in time, which is probably something we could discuss in terms of the pros and cons of that. But yeah, really glad to be on. I know we've had chats in the past around this subject matter on different kind of podcasts and stuff. And yeah, really happy to be on and talk a little bit about different experiences with it.
No, I appreciate that. Thomas, what's your story?
So I came on board with the charity, I was going to say a year ago, but it's actually nearly 2 years ago now. So it wasn't last July before that. I saw the job come up. I was just at home and I saw it come up on my various little things that I have on coming into my emails about different jobs. And I thought, I'll chuck an application in because I knew Dean and Matthew through football. And both of us, and I think Matthew will admit this as well, neither of us thought that I would kind of get the job. But actually turned out that I was actually half decent at what I do. So yeah, I kind of spent a year shadowing Matthew, listening to him talk quite a lot. So I have learned a lot from him. And now both of us are kind of taking the online stuff that Matthew's just mentioned in our own sort of directions, delivering a lot like every single evening and stuff like that, working with a lot of young people, which is fantastic. And kind of, like Matthew said, making sure that no one has to go through what we've kind of been through. So I lost my cousin when I was about 15 or 16 to suicide. And much like Matthew, we never obviously got an answer or a reason why he chose to do what he did. So yeah, I kind of, since joining the charity, have really sort of processed that, because I never really did at the time, because I was kind of, I just didn't really understand it or anything, even at that age. But I think kind of since joining the charity and learning so much about myself and the world of mental health, I've kind of processed that and really, I think, kind of helped my family as well, to kind of, you know, spread the message and stuff and help them out as well as myself.
No, I appreciate that. It is obviously scary knowing that, like, obviously you two have been through that sort of thing, that there is people out there who might seem fine on the outside, on the outer shell, they might seem fine, but there's obviously a lot of internal things going on through the head with the struggles and stuff like that. So having something that obviously you've set up yourself is perfect for anybody out there. And I don't think, in terms of my own understanding, I don't know a lot of foundations out there that are kind of focusing, especially on young people, and especially in football specifically, because that's a different kind of topic altogether, the mental health side of football, because there's a lot of a stigma around football in terms of being a macho man, all that sort of thing. You can't show your emotions and stuff, but being able to, obviously, you doing your little Zoom calls and stuff with football clubs, maybe opening up people's minds that actually, you know what, maybe I am feeling a little bit like down and maybe I do need to talk about it. So what are some of the things that you've been doing within the workshops with not just the footballers, but obviously some of the other things that you're doing as well?
I think kind of what you touched on there of like why it's so important. The reason it's so important is, you know, the amount of people that I struggle. It's the biggest killer of men under the age of 45, suicide. So it is so important. And I think what we're trying to do is just talk about it in a normal way. We're not experts, we're not clinicians or anything like that. We've just experienced, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, of course, mate, get it out.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want, say whatever you want.
I hope my mum doesn't listen. But we've just experienced some shit in our lives and had to deal with some difficult stuff. And I think some of the main things we try to get across to not just to players, but to anybody of like, when we're in that difficult period, having the things in place to manage and deal with that, and having that structure, almost them coping strategies, and that includes obviously talking to people. And I think there's a lot done around the importance of communication, and obviously it's so important for what we're talking about here. But I think it's almost driven down on us that we'll have to talk. But like, I mean, how often would you see three lads like we are talking about this subject? It wouldn't happen
very rare,
very often, because actually I don't think we're given the opportunity to do it in the way that we feel comfortable. It's just told like, right, you need to sit down, you need to pour your heart out. We like to talk more about the importance of talking, but actually how it works for you, but the other things you do. I know, like, even for me and Tom, like, we've learned a lot, even through like the 2 years of working together, of the benefit of having certain things in place. Would you agree, Tom?
Yeah, definitely. And I think like, if I think about even just in lockdown, obviously we didn't really see each other for like in a work kind of environment for about, where it must be nearly a year. So the first trip that we had away, we went down to Man City, and we were just sat in the car and we were talking about what like lockdown's been like, and the both of us sat there and both just went, do you know what? It's actually been fine. Like, yeah, it has been a bit of a struggle, but actually compared to some people, we've actually like almost thrived during lockdown and turned it into a bit more of a positive. And I think that is because obviously all the stuff that we talk about, you know, we talk about because we do all these different things. We've got stuff in place, as well as obviously communicating, but we stress that they have to have other things in place. You know what I mean? So it's not just about sitting down and talking. It's all the different stuff. Like obviously we're going to speak about now through being active, all them different kinds of things, you know, and we are proof that we've got them things in place. And like just in something like lockdown, where a lot of people have struggled, we've actually felt quite positive during it.
Yeah. And sorry, just to put something in that, in terms of like, when we were talking about that, we said, you know what, lockdown's been fine, but if we're honest, Tom, we had some difficult stuff to deal with as well. Yeah. So like, we were both on furlough for quite a while. Tom slightly longer than me. But during lockdown, my dad got a diagnosis of cancer. He found cancer in his neck, which was obviously horrific. So it wasn't like everything was brilliant, everything was sunshine and rainbows. I had some difficult shit to deal with. But actually, because like we said, we have these things in place, it made it that little bit more manageable. And sometimes it is, because we're all going to have our difficulties, that different things. I know kind of for you, Brendan, you've talked about injury and stuff, and we've all got that little stuff that knocked us, put us on that kind of difficult path. But it's at that point, having them things, them driving forces, them people around you, just to manage through that.
Mm-hmm. I think it does take you for example, before all your struggles, before obviously you had incidents in your family with suicide and stuff, did you have these structures in place? Were you even like thinking about, was mental health even really a thing for both of you, Thomas? I'll let you go first.
For me, no, because I'd never been I'd never been taught about mental health, to be honest, never been told about it, knew it kind of existed, but much in sort of the same way that we have people in our workshops who probably feel quite similar. I thought that mental health was mental health problems and that's it. Nothing positive, no positive mental health or anything like that. I didn't know I really had it, if I'm honest with you, up until obviously that all happened in the family and stuff like that, and I started to learn a little bit more. So no, I remember actually I was in one of Dean and Shirley's workshops, but I think I was in about year 7, and the distinct thing I remember was the element of it and stuff, and why they were in to talk to us, obviously losing Dan and getting a wristband, and that's all I could remember from it. And then after that, after they spoke to us, the school never kind of took it anywhere else. But I think that's because back then, and I say back then as in only about 10 years ago, you know, it was never really at the forefront of people's minds or within young people. But obviously now we're seeing that it really does need to be.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I was going to say, Mike, what was it like for you before in terms of, did you have that mindfulness? Did you have a sort of a routine and structure in place at all before obviously your brother passed away?
I mean, I have to be honest, like before my brother, no. So Dean and Shirley, my mum and dad, by the way, when Tom's dropping in Dean and Shirley. So like even after losing Dan, so like I was 10, it was the first thing I'd ever experienced in terms of loss. But to lose something in that kind of way, it obviously puts you in a certain path, and you get a certain level of understanding of the importance of things. But even after losing Dan, I would say there was a long period of like growing up where actually I would just kind of like, I would talk, but I would talk in the way that I thought people wanted to hear. I would just, because I knew what I was going to say was going to affect other people. So like, I would just say, yeah, I feel sad, but like that wasn't really kind of how I felt. I just pushed it down for a long time and kind of tried to ignore it because I thought nobody could understand. And I think it wasn't until I was older that I got like to that point of actually, no, you need to have these things in place. You need to find what the way for you to communicate, the person for you to communicate. Football was massive in terms of like my grief and how I coped, because it just helped me to switch off. It helped us to escape. I was at Hartlepool Academy at the time. I've got to drop that in, haven't I?
It's got to be done.
But then like I just put everything into football. I thought football was the only thing that would kind of like help me to cope. But like, and I'm sure you understand this, Tom knows this because we talk about it all the time. If you rely on football to be the only coping strategy, can't happen, because football's the issue sometimes. Football's the main issue, or whatever kind of sport or whatever thing you do. Like, you know, if you're injured, if you're not playing, if you're not enjoying it, you know, I got to the point where actually it was so much pressure for me and so much kind of anxiety of not wanting to fail and not wanting to be disappointed that I just stopped enjoying it. And I think, and it goes back to what Tom's saying around like that education, if I had other things, other coping strategies, other structures in place, I could have enjoyed the thing that I love the most a lot more. And it wasn't like I have to go to that because that's the only thing that can make us happy. If that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. You've got to have more than one thing to rely on. Like I always say to like even my girlfriend, I always say like you've got to be independent no matter what. You can't just rely on like other people for your own mental health. You can't rely on like one thing. Like some people rely on like to get through the year. It might even just be like a holiday, thinking about a holiday. Right, I've got to get to the holiday. Once the holiday's over, what is it now? Like that you've been looking forward to that all year. Now it's like, right, nothing's changed. I've still got this problem in my head. I need to find something else. And like the same with football, there's too many highs and lows in football there's too many lows. There's probably only like, maybe you get one or two good highs. The rest of it are just lows. It's a mental battle itself. So relying purely on football is going to probably like in yourself, take away that love from the game because you're putting so much pressure on yourself. And because obviously, sorry, I was going to say, what were you going to say?
Go on, carry on.
I was going to say, you were a young lad when it all happened. So you were 10 years old. Like, you probably didn't really understand everything that's going on. And it's great. Obviously, football's going to be there for you. But then if you lose the love for the game when you're a young lad, that's going to massively impact you down the line. You might look back and have those sort of regrets in terms of that. But in terms of being a young lad happening at that sort of age, there's a lot of growing up probably happening in a very short period of time for you, which is obviously it's a horrible tragic thing, but it's almost a blessing in disguise for your own self, because you do grow. These things that happen to you, like I've got a client, I was speaking to him the other day, and he's about 21 years old, and I was like, oh, like just about like I've never really talked to you about like what's your mental health like at the minute, because I think he's on furlough at the minute. He's just doing little bits of gym in the house. Like, what do you do? He's not really doing. We'll say, oh, how you doing? It's like, mate, I've honestly never struggled with mental health in my life. I'm fine. I'm doing my bits and bobs. I'm playing Xbox with my mates, but he's never had anything kind of really bad happen to him, which is obviously great for him. But something might tragically happen in 1 or 2 years to him, and he might not have those things in place to deal with that, which is why, like you both said, in terms of lockdown, you've been fine because you've already got these routines and these things in place, because there's something's changed, there's been something different that's happened in your life. You can adapt like that. Like you've been through that sort of situation before. Obviously, there's going to be people who do struggle out there because they've never had to adapt to situations like that, which is obviously it's tough when you've not been through anything like that. But what were you going to say before? Sorry, mate.
I'm definitely not grateful for obviously what I've had to experience. However, exactly like you say, it's made me appreciate and understand the value of actually having these things in place. However, use that lad as an example, it shouldn't take something like this, an experience like that, to actually have the things in place. You should have the things in place anyway. You know, like that what has happened with my dad, thankfully he's doing a lot better now. Like, I had the things in place already. It didn't take my dad being unwell for me to think, oh, I need to do something to look after myself. And I think I picked up on something. I've been thinking about this recently in terms of, like, when you say about the holiday or the game or the whatever, there's always that aspiration, and that's what's going to make us happy. We're looking for that happiness. There's always that goal of, I'll lose 6 pounds and then I'll be happy. I'll lose a stone and then I'll be happy. I'll go on holiday and then I'll be happy. But it's all relative to the here and now. And actually, no, why don't you just be happy with what you've achieved today? And I know we've had conversations in the past, Brendan, about like just them wins for the day and celebrating them little wins and just clinging on to them, because it's here and now. And before you know it, and I know it's really cheesy, it's in the past. And it's like, try and, even them really difficult periods, try and embrace them and try and live them. I mean, I'm sure for a lot of people at this moment in time with everything that's going on, it'll feel like the past 6 months, 9 months have been a blur.
Yeah.
Because it's constantly wishing, I can't wait until COVID goes away. I can't wait until the vaccine. But there's still going to be difficulties when this disappears. We have to be honest. It's still going to be hard. It's not going to be like one day we're going to run out the door and everybody's going to hug each other and everybody's going to be really happy.
It's going to be a long time.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
I think just in terms of like when you were talking just then about setting yourself little wins for the day, I think that is massive for people. So for me personally, like since the new year, I've kind of tried to do little things every single day that when I get into bed on a night, I feel like I've actually achieved something. And I think that's what people should kind of aim for instead of aiming for that holiday and stuff. So just like drinking 6 bottles of my water a day and reading 10 pages of my book. Those are my 2 kind of defaults. I'll do the book when I get into bed, and hopefully by that point I've had all my water. So just having them little things, and like I actually really now look forward to feeling like I have accomplished something, even if it is just staying hydrated. And especially with the reading, like I didn't find myself, I think maybe a year ago, I didn't read at all. Like I didn't read any books or anything like that. But now I actually find myself looking forward to finishing this book that I'm reading and moving on to the next one. So I think even just little things like that, if you stick them in your day, then that can really, really help you kind of have those daily wins, as you were saying.
Yeah. When you mentioned about reading, that was something when I was going through like my struggles with injury and stuff that I kind of turned to. And I think people can't, like, they're not able to spend time with themselves. Like that's when they really struggle, because that's when the thoughts go in. But if you've got something like listening to a podcast, reading, you're almost like that's the time where you can also work on yourself, work on being able to actually deal with with being on your own. You can also learn some crazy things and listening to podcasts with people who are mindful, who do like podcasts like this. Hopefully, if people actually do listen to it on mental health and stuff, like things like this do actually help you. Like as stupid as it sounds, even if it's a podcast that's nothing to really do with anything that you're massively interested in, just listening to people's voices and listening to their opinions on things, open up your mind to new things is going to be massive. I found personally to help me. And you were on about the kind of ticking things off, and I have a little checklist on my phone every day, which I've done in the notes. I've just realized like last week you can like do the little ticky things, like tick them off in your notes section. You can, mate. I didn't realize until the other day.
Oh,
You have to get on, mate. Massive, mind blown. But yeah, since last week, I've told them like I've done it for ages. Since last week, I now do it. But you just tick things off as you go. I write down like my morning routine, which we'll probably talk about in a second about routine and stuff. My morning routine, which is always cold shower, make my bed, which is Tom. I know that you're a big on making your bed, which I like. You mentioned in the podcast the other day. Cold shower, and then I write down in my daily journal just 3 positive things just to be grateful for, and then maybe just some sort of motivational speech. If I'm not feeling great, I'll just say, right, you're not feeling great today, but just do everything you can to do stuff. If you're feeling great, look, you're not going to feel like this every single day. Make the most of it. Be productive. Do more things today, because there might be days where you're not feeling productive. And just as an example, yesterday wasn't a great day for me, but I got my non-negotiable sort of stuff out the way. I ticked all my boxes. I had all my 4 or 5 things that I know I needed to get done. I ticked them off. And I was like, that's it. There's going to be days where I'm going to tick them off and I'm going to do 5 different things. For example, like do a podcast, record a video. And then on the days when I'm not feeling great, I might be able to just sit down on my laptop and just edit a few things. If I get 10 minutes of editing done, that's a bonus. So having that sort of routine in place and making you feel like you're accomplishing something each day. I'm always big on the process, which is why I've named the podcast The Process. Like that is the thing that keeps you sort of your mental health in check, having a process that you enjoy and that keeps you feeling good. Like the end goals, sometimes it might not happen, or you're going to get an end goal and there's always going to be a goal after that. But having something in place and enjoying that process of getting up every day, doing whatever you do for work, doing your exercise, getting your steps in, whatever it is, learning to enjoy that and do that consistently, that's what's going to keep you in a good place, like from my perspective anyway.
Yeah, I think it's important as well, though, like 100%, that you know we can't kind of sit here and say, oh yeah, we'll smash it every day. Like there are days where I cannot be asked. There are days like where I haven't got everything kind of set up in the right way, and I don't do the stuff I should be, and I have to check myself sometimes. I think it's been almost driven into us by these people who are portraying this fantastic life on social media, that we have to be ridiculously productive every single day. But actually, no, even if it is something as simple as, do you know what? I got up, I made my bed, I had a shower, and I went for a walk. Like that, people see that and think, well, you should just do that every day. Well, no, actually, that could be a big win for somebody. And when we're lacking that motivation, to have the motivation to do that and take that little step can be a huge win, can't it? And it's them little things that get you. And I know, like, we're always kind of name drop it, but it gets you in the process. It gets you in that mindset of, even in them difficult days, there is them little things that we can do and celebrate them as well.
100%. So Tom, what's your little morning routine? Because I know you mentioned it on the previous podcast. How important has that been, like, for you personally?
Massive. I think when we first went into lockdown, obviously nearly a year ago, I had a kind of week or 2 week period where I'd sit up to the early hours on the PlayStation, basically like I'm a teenager again. Not wake up till 11, 12 o'clock, not make my bed, eat whatever I want. And to be honest, for about 2 weeks, it was quite nice. But then I started getting sick of it. So that's when, like you say, I got into the process and the routine and stuff like that. So first, like, I try and get up at a reasonable time. I'd say I lie in on a Sunday, maybe about 10 o'clock. And even then, I'm probably awake before then. But straight away, as soon as I get up, it's make my bed. And I don't mean just like literally just chucking your quilt on. I mean actually like stuffing the stuff down the side so it looks neat. And honestly, we spoke about it on the last thing we did, but like it is massive. It's the tiniest little thing, and I hear loads of people say it's the tiniest little thing, but honestly, it makes a huge difference to your morning. After that, I get straight on and have some water, a cup of tea, and then a good breakfast, because I think, again, breakfast in terms of like your nutrition and stuff like that just sets you up really, really well for the day. And like, it stops you almost snacking, because I feel like when you're bored, you snack and then you feel crap after you've done that. Do you know what I mean? And eating the stuff that you don't need to. So a good breakfast and stuff can really sort of help, and then I'm off with my day.
Yeah, it's just starting the day positive, even the things that you don't want to do. That's one of the reasons I do the cold showers, because I know I don't want to do it, but I feel better for doing it. And it's with you, with making the bed, obviously I do that, the same sort of thing as well. Doing that properly, even when you wake up and you don't really fancy doing it, that's going to end up leading, like, snowball and all into you doing something else. Like the other day I made my bed and then I seen there was washing on the side, and my missus did this. I hope my missus is listening, because I'd done the washing. It was hanging on the side. That just led me to then do the washing, put the washing away. Then it led me to, I don't know, message someone about trying to organize a podcast that might be in this podcast. Like stuff like that just kind of starts the momentum. And once you kind of get rolling, it's kind of unlimited where you can kind of go with. But if you start that day, you're a bit sloppy getting out of bed, you snooze your alarm, you don't make your bed, you don't know, you skip a cold shower, if you don't hydrate, you have a crappy breakfast, you see a muffin on the side and you have that. That's already a few losses in the day, and that's put you in sort of a negative frame of mind, negative mindset, and that'll probably carry on throughout the day, and it's going to be harder to then bounce back and get back onto it. When you know what it's like with football, when your confidence is high and stuff, you're rolling, you're flying, you don't even have to think about playing. So it's just the same sort of thing, but in terms of life, obviously being consistent with the right things and then progressing. Right, we're back on. Apologies for the little break. That was my peasant Zoom, because I haven't upgraded to the full Zoom yet. So we're back on. Anyway, Matty, you've had something to say in terms of a different approach to routines.
Yeah, so in terms of kind of routines and stuff like that, it is so important. And I think I'm trying to get better at like that sort of stuff, of getting up at a decent time. I know that was something that you kind of forced upon us as part of like the training I've been doing with you. However, a couple of things. Sleep is really important for my mental health. I know I have to have a certain amount of hours, or I can't really function that well. I mean, I can't make my bed because sometimes my missus is still in bed, so yeah. I don't think. But a different kind of look on it. So I was diagnosed with OCD when I was younger, when I was 13, 14, and a big part and kind of me understanding that a big thing for me is control, and kind of trying to feel like I'm in control. And if I get too ritualistic, so kind of like, I got to the point where I had to do certain things, and my idea was, so for example, I would count my steps. So I would pick kind of sets of 10, and it sounds ridiculous talking about it, but like it would basically, I would pick a point and I had to get there in 10 steps, and if I didn't, I wouldn't play well in the game. But actually it got to the point in my thought process that I would have to do it, or like my mum was going to die or something like that, and it was my way of coping and trying to control situations. So the point I'm trying to get at in terms of routine is, I need to be careful of actually not relying too much on the routine, and I need to break it. I need to have, and I'm going to try a big word, a bit of spontaneity in my life, because when I get too reliant on something, I struggle then, because if I can't do it for whatever reason, say I need to change my schedule or something, I then struggle to cope. So for somebody, actually, I have these, I like you describe it as the non-negotiables. Like, I have them things that I know I have to do. So I need to do one piece of exercise a day. I need to make sure I'm kind of getting up at a relatively decent time. I make sure I check in with people and stuff, but mine's a little bit more irregular, because I have to, because I understand with my mental health, if I had it so structured, I would become too reliant on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think that's
I think you find the way that works for you again with it. Does it? Yeah,
100%. I think you can't be too strict. Like you said, you can't kind of rely on them things. It's like the same with people having superstitions before football, similar to your stuff, and like tie your right boot before your left sort of thing. Like, you cannot control that. And I've done a good podcast with Chris Factory, who's at Blythe with me at the minute. He said a very nice saying in Italian, but some Italian player told him, I can't remember what it was, but it pretty much means that you're in control of your life. Like, these external factors and variables and stuff, they can change, but they cannot influence your own life. You are the one who's in control of it. So, like, for example, like, somebody cancels on you, or like you get a last minute call for a meeting or whatever it is, you need to be able to adapt. Yes, you might not be able to do your morning routine bang on. You might have to quickly rush through it and stuff like that. But you've got to be able to do that, and you've got to be able to understand, right, I'm doing this for the right reasons, and it's not going to affect my day. I'm the one who's in control of it. Something might not go to plan with, I don't know, a meeting or like a trading session. You might have a bad trading session. That can't then affect you for the next meeting or the next trading session or the next game. You've got to be able to adapt and understand, like, it's life. Like, life doesn't go to plan. Look at lockdown and COVID and stuff. Like, you've got to be able to adapt to things and be resilient in a sense to whatever kind of comes your way. So yeah, that's a good point, to be fair, because there probably is people who are like, if my routine isn't in check, my day is ruined. It probably is. It probably is that. Have you found that at all, Thomas? In terms of, has there been days where you haven't stuck to your routine, it's kind of went downhill, or you kind of able to adapt?
Yeah, today. So my car's in for its MOT. So, and I had to come to the office this morning nice and early. Because my car was in for its MOT, I had to take my mum to work. She needed to be there at 7:15. So I got up really early. I made my bed, but I didn't have any breakfast, and I had a McDonald's breakfast on the way to the office. Now, obviously, that is the hallmark of a crap breakfast, but I stuck with making my bed. I managed to get up out of bed nice and early. I had a coffee. So, and even though I had a sausage and egg McMuffin, I still feel all right, because I still did little parts of that routine. And it's just like you say, like with the non-negotiables, keep the non-negotiables just within yourself. And like Matthew touched on with the sleep, like sleep is massively important, I think, in terms of like just everything. So if on a Saturday or Sunday or even a weekday, if you've got a morning off or whatever, you want to lie in bed till 10, 11 o'clock and not do anything for the first few hours of your day, crack on and do it. You see all these people who put like the daily routines on, and they're getting up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, starting emails at like 7 o'clock. It's not realistic. They'll probably do that once every 2 weeks and actually go through the whole routine. Whereas in reality, they'll probably do that, like I say, once, and then the next few days they'll probably stay in bed or not catch up on emails until the afternoon. So like, be almost relaxed in yourself and give yourself a bit of looseness in your non-negotiables and your routine and stuff like that.
It's
like having a sausage McMuffin for your breakfast.
Hey mate, I was going to mention about that nutrition, mate. There's nothing wrong with every so often having one. I think me and my missus, because my birthday next week, we're going to have a Domino's at the weekend. Like, things like don't stress about it if you're doing it every so often. If there's a day where you forgot to prep your food or whatever it is, you can have a Greg's or something like that. Like, once in a while, as long as you're like 80% of the time consistent, which I've talked to you about, Matty, like, you don't have to be 100% bang on every single time, because you've got to have a bit of balance in your life. So there's nothing wrong with every so often. Everyone enjoys a little McDonald's breakfast every so often.
I mean, how good do you feel personally when you're having your treat?
Oh,
you know what I mean? And even sometimes when you break in your routine, it kind of feels good at the same time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You need that time to switch off. And then you mentioned the sleep thing. I think a lot of people, like, I like to get up early because I'm more productive first thing in the morning. I feel better for it. And at the minute during lockdown, that's something that's like training in the mornings, keeping me in a routine. Like, I don't need to get up and train at that time. I could probably get away with training like after this podcast. I've got like an hour, 2 hour gap. I could do that, but I know it helps me to start my day. And I think a lot of people do it on social media just for show. Just to put it on social media, like, oh, I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning, or I'm doing this, that, and the other, I'm getting my work done. Like, one, like you said, you're probably not going to be able to maintain that consistently. And if you're not getting your sleep right, if you're not going to bed early enough as well, so you can't consistently go to bed at 12 o'clock and get up at 5 o'clock. Like, 5 hours of sleep is not maintainable. Like, funny you've said that. I've recorded a little like funny IGT video talking about like the Gary V lifestyle, getting up and having 4 hours of sleep, hustle, grind, all that stuff. It's not maintainable consistently, and you've got to have time to switch off. Like, I always allow at least one day when I'm like, I'm going to lay in, I'm going to be a little bit lazy, but I need that day to kind of reset and kind of like reset, recharge, and also just have time to switch off. And then when it gets to the end of the day, I'm like, right, I've done nothing today. Tomorrow I'm ready to get back at it, and I actually want to get back on it. And it's the same with training plans, and you see people who train 7 days a week. Like, that's not maintainable, and you probably don't have like that motivation to go and train. Whereas if you have 2 or 3 days off a week, you probably look forward to training a little bit more. So there's got to be that balance. You've got to be realistic, and whatever works for you. If you like laying in and you're more productive later in the day, do it. If you can do that, if your lifestyle works like that, as long as you get the work done, it doesn't really matter.
Definitely.
Definitely. 100%.
Yeah, we'll touch on a little bit about exercise, and obviously with gyms being shut and football being cancelled. I think is your league's been completely cancelled yet or not?
Yeah, not completely cancelled, but I think unfortunately we've all just come to the acceptance that it's gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I that sounds really dramatic. It's gone, but like
It's gone.
It is a big deal because you know, it's what, as much as we were saying you shouldn't, it's what you're looking forward to at the weekend. You're preparing for that game. Like me and Tom, and I know you'll be similar. We are, although we play at a relatively kind of low standard, we are preparing for the game the night before. You know, we're getting in that mindset the night before, and to not even just have that routine like we've been talking about. Of, you know, my Saturday routine hasn't changed for years, because that's the one where I like to feel in control of it, because obviously it's what I value the most and what I enjoy the most. So yeah, we've kind of accepted that it's gone. And I think that's been difficult. I've found that difficult. Of previous lockdowns, it's been that aspiration of, okay, well, I need to keep myself ticking over, because at some point when it's a goer, I need to be ready to go. But it's more, I would say it's more difficult this time. Would you, Tom?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, just like you've said, the whole sort of aiming towards that, the Saturday or the midweek game, just so you kind of build your week around it in terms of everything, like your different exercise, your nutrition and stuff like that. So yeah, it has been kind of weird, and not having that goal to aim towards, just like you say, keeping yourself ticking over with your fitness and what have you. So I've found it quite difficult, especially in the past couple of weeks, of like coming to the terms of, obviously football, we're not going to play any more games this season. So what am I actually keeping myself fit for? Like, what am I actually doing the workouts and going for runs for? And I know obviously personally for me, it's for my mental health, but like still it is quite hard to find the motivation to, and I know a few of the lads at who we play with are struggling with that as well. And like, I can imagine people in the same league and even in a couple of leagues above are probably feeling exactly the same, that they don't really feel the need to actually exercise or anything like that. So that kind of stuff's been difficult. And that release and that sort of 2 hours where you're not with your missus and you're not with your mum and dad or whatever, where you can just sort of be with the lads, because it's so much different, like being at home with your family or whoever, like, and the kind of person you are with the lads at footy, and just having that bit of crack and stuff, it's just having that taken away, it's been crap, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's that social aspect. It's like the same with obviously people who don't play football, like going to be able to go and even just have a pint with a mate sort of thing. Like, the people are going to be missing that, and also not having that goal, which is why you see so many people, like there's probably a lot of people like that who are obviously out, not just in football, are struggling with the motivation to keep fit and keep going, because they don't have that end goal. They don't even know if they're going to get a holiday. Like we talked about, kind of pushing towards that. That's like a goal for people, right? I want to get in shape for holiday. Like, people don't have that end goal anymore, which is why I'm always big on setting goals. So you've got to create your own reason for doing stuff. And that's when people talk about motivation's only short term. Like, you get motivated by watching someone on YouTube shout whatever it is, go on, you can do it today, sort of thing, like all their motivational videos, but that's only short term. Like, you need to find something that's not really a motivation, but it's your purpose and it's your reason for doing something. You know, like, yes, I'm not feeling motivated today, but I know that I need to do this thing to get to where I want to be. So having some sort of, any sort of goal, like even little ones, like if it could be like I asked you the other day, Matty, like to make up a little 4-week goal, whether to get back into a routine of things, obviously after being ill, or just hitting your steps daily, or I don't know, I want to improve by 2 reps on my bench press, or whatever it could be, just little ones. And then once you get that one, just create another one and just keep that kind of momentum going. But yeah, it is tough in terms of football, because obviously it's the same for me. Our league's been postponed for 2 weeks, I think now, and that's even questionable whether it's going to be continuing after that. So yeah, it's hard to keep going when you're not training for that purpose, but you need to create something in your own mind, a reason to kind of keep going. I think
the gym's being shut. That was the closest thing I had to some sort of release, similar to football. And I think the difficulty I'm finding, even like weather-wise, like I would go and do a workout in my garden, no bother, when the weather was nice. But now I'm like, if I'm doing a workout, it's got to be in my front room, but I'm working from home all day. So it's trying to kind of push yourself. So I've been breaking off, and I know we've chatted, and just trying to get out of the house that little bit more. So like doing a little bit more exercise out of the house. I know sometimes it isn't appropriate with the weather, but like just a run or something, just to get that, the fresh air makes a massive difference. I know for like a lot of people at the minute, they are literally sat like this for majority of the day, and then they'll switch off, have food, and then probably just lie down and watch the TV. So actually just getting outside, even the big thing I've been, and I know you always talk about the 10,000 steps and doing that every day. And, you know, that's really helped me, I would say. Nothing will replace the feeling of football. And I think we'll have to accept that unfortunately is going to be difficult, but there's still things you can do to, again, on that difficult period, cope with it.
100%. I think going back to like the point about feeling like you've accomplished something, like the little goal of 10,000 steps is, again, if you hit that every day, it's again a little feeling like, all right, I've actually done something today. And if you're dwelling on like with football being cancelled and we know we're going to be in lockdown and we're not going to be able to go and see our mates and stuff for probably a long time, there's no point kind of dwelling on that. You might as well try your best to flip. I know it's easy enough just saying flip your mindset and like just accept that that's going to be the way it is, but try your best and just be like, right, this is what's going to happen. Like, I'm not going to be able to do this, that, and the other, but this is what I can do to kind of get myself in a good place, and kind of flipping your mindset like that and kind of moving forward like that. Is there anything that you found, Tom, from working from home that kind of helps you in terms of exercise? What have you been doing in terms of, are you just training inside at the minute, or you're getting yourself out for runs?
So I've decided to like try and do maybe 2 exercises or sets of exercise a day. So one probably being a workout, even if it's just 10-20 minutes of a little circuit or something like that, just body weight stuff. Because obviously trying to buy weights at this point in time, even now, it's still so expensive, it's ridiculous. I've got an 8 kilogram kettlebell and that's it. So even if it's just 10-20 minutes with that, or the resistance bands, but then I'm trying to get out the house for 45 minutes to an hour, and it has to be outside, even if it is just a walk. So I usually go, obviously Matthew will know because I put a message in the work chat saying I'm going out for a run or a walk. I usually try and get out for a run or a walk on my dinner, and then I'll get back, quickly make my dinner, just bang it in the microwave, and then I'll go sit at my desk and do work while eating my dinner. So I've prioritized my dinner time to getting out and go and exercise, because when you finish work at 5 o'clock, especially if I've got an hour drive home, it's hard to get in the house, smell my tea, and then think, no, do you know what, I'll put my shoes on and I'll go out again. So it is hard doing that. So like using the time on my dinner and stuff like that just to get out is what I've been doing, just in terms of exercise and stuff like that. And then we've recently bought an exercise bike for the house.
Nice.
So just jumping on there for 20 to 40 minutes again, just to keep myself taking over.
It's just doing whatever kind of works best for you. Like, it's just like I mentioned before we even start the podcast, I hate training at night time. So that's why I'm getting up early and getting my workout done, because one, it kind of starts my day right, gets me feeling productive. But I know if I do it early in the day, it's done. I'm kind of in a more positive mindset towards training and getting my exercise done early in the day than I would be at like 6 o'clock at night. And I know I just want to kind of wind down and relax. And everybody knows how hard it is to get motivated when you're tired and you've got to go and go do a run. And especially in this lockdown when it's pitch black at like 4:30, 5 o'clock now. This is one of the reasons why I think this lockdown's probably been a lot tougher for people, because of the bad weather. Like I was speaking to my dad about it. He's up early. He's up at like 5 o'clock in the morning he's still working through this all. And he said this lockdown's been a lot tougher because I'm going to work when it's dark, I'm coming home when it's dark, and there's nothing in between. Whereas last lockdown, it was in the summer and I was getting up and it was kind of starting to get light when I was getting up, and at nighttime we could chill in the garden. I could sit outside and have my food in the sun. It wasn't as bad. So there probably is a big difference in terms of people suffering mental health with the weather.
There is, anyway, you know, lockdown or no lockdown, this time of year is one of the most difficult times of the year in this country. You know, and I hate the day, but we've just gone past the most depressing day of the year. So actually, you know, it's Blue Monday or whatever it is. And so it is this time of the year where it's difficult anyway. Chuck a global pandemic in there, and the fact that you can't see anybody and you can't do the things that you would normally potentially use to cope. It's huge. It's massive. But I just think, like, it's kind of like what you said, Brendan. You know, you can flip this and use this real negative to actually learn a bit more about yourself, learn what kind of keeps you ticking over, and learn how you can deal a little bit better with things as well.
Mm-hmm. It is a challenge, because it is always easy saying, right, this is what you need to do. You 100%. Need to do this, but actually getting to that point is so hard. But like I said again, listening to podcasts like this one, reading books on that's anything to do with life, anything to do with mindfulness, mental health, all that sort of stuff. Educating yourself. Yes, you might listen to it and think, right, I'm going to try and implement that. You might completely fail at it, but at least you're kind of doing the right things, and eventually it will kind of catch up. Yeah, I'd probably say it took me a good 2.5 years to kind of actually get myself into a better place where my routine was actually working. Yes, I used to read every morning before, when I was in full-time football, but 2 years ago when I was playing in Scotland. I used to get up every morning, have a coffee, sit down and read for like 45 minutes. I still felt like crap. Honestly, my head was still not in a good place, but I knew that kind of doing that down the line, things are going to start to get better. And they did eventually. Like I said, it took like 2 years or whatever it is to kind of get my head into a better headspace. But it's
it's not an instant shift, is it?
Oh, 100%. No. It's a long process. So you just got to do, you know what's going to help your own mental health, and you know what's going to kind of make it worse. But it's so much easier to do the things that make it worse than it is to do the things that make it better, which is just crazy. So talking about that, do you obviously you both had your darker periods. Do you still kind of get times where you do it might even be like a split second, it might even be 20 minutes or something like that, where you kind of flip back into that moment and you're like, what's the point anymore, sort of thing? Like, I just don't feel great. Do you ever still get them moments?
Yeah, I was going to pick up on that kind of as you were saying that, Brendan. Do you want to go, Tom, or should I?
No, go on.
Like, as much as you build this resilience up, or you build your way of dealing with it, I still have days where I go back to them dark periods. There's still weeks where I have a really, really tough week. However, I think because of what I've built up, I can get through them that little bit easier, or that little bit better. So yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not a perfect example of having that good process and stuff. I still get into my bad habits every now and then, and I have to check myself. And it's still a process that I'm learning. I would say I'm not the finished article. There's still a lot of things that I need to improve on, you know, kind of get better and getting better habits. But I think we can all check ourselves and stuff. You know, reading for me has been a big challenge, because I struggle to be present kind of in the moment. My mind's everywhere, kind of doing lots of different things. So actually reading is a really difficult task for me, but that just highlights I need to do it more to get better at it. So I am quite a competitive person, so I challenge myself with things, and that's how I get around them. Of, well, you need to do it, and you need to kind of get better at it. So no, it's certainly not. I still have some really difficult periods, I have to be honest. You know, I still miss my brother. I still think about kind of what could have been. You know, I should be an uncle now, and all that sort of stuff. So it's always there. I always say it never goes away. You just find your way to manage it and deal with it that little bit better as it goes through.
Definitely, yeah. And I think it's exactly the same for me. And I think it would probably be exactly the same for everyone, because I don't think anyone could honestly sit there and say that they don't have shit days, or like a period in a week or a week period where, you know, you maybe don't feel motivated and you are feeling a little bit crap and stuff like that. And like, but you know, like we've already touched on, we've got them things in place that can really help us with that. And like, I would say obviously we know the most important one is speaking, but that's the first thing that I do. It'll either be to my girlfriend or my best mate, and I'll just text them. I'll usually text asking if they're okay, and try and push for them to ask if I'm all right, and then I'll say, nah, feel crap. Because I couldn't just send them a text or ring them and like ask, and then just completely open my heart out and say, this is how I'm feeling. I have to be pushed to say that. So that's why I send them the text first. But then, like, even just them two relationships that I've got, them two know exactly the kind of things that I need to do that'll help me get back to feeling more positive. One of the main ones being going for a run or a walk. Like, my best mate will text us and just say, should we go for a run? And then we'll just chat shit all the way around on the run. And I feel brilliant after doing that. So, and I think those kind of days and periods are a little bit more frequent, obviously, with everything that's going on. But, you know, I'm quite grateful that with all the stuff that I've found out within myself in recent times, that can help us through them little bad periods.
Yeah, it's great that you've got them people around you though. Like when you do have a good tight group knit of friends and family who you know you can go and speak to. The times where it's hard, like I feel sorry for the people who don't have anybody, who maybe feel like they are on the loan. Like there might be people who actually, if they reached out, they could speak to, but they might feel isolated, or they might not actually have too many friends. They might literally be on their own, which is why it's great that there's obviously you guys, if you guys share, obviously I'll put all the numbers and stuff down below to contact, but someone like you guys to maybe talk to, even just a stranger. Like I spoke to Jack Robson, who's obviously he struggled with it a little bit. He said the best thing that he did was speak to a stranger, because they don't know anything about you. They're not going to, obviously there's no chance of it rumors getting spread or anything like that, which is hopefully that would never happen anyway. But there's no kind of nothing in your head thinking like, oh, what if they say this, what if they say that? You know that they're just going to sit, listen, and maybe just take things in and help you out the best you can. So yeah, if you've got a good group of family, good group of friends who you can talk to, they are the best people to go and speak to.
Definitely.
And also in terms of, if you have had like one of them days, like for example, like yesterday, I didn't have a great day just in terms of productivity and stuff. I got my kind of bits and bobs that I need to get done. And I said, you know what, I've done what I need to get done. I'm just going to go to sleep here. I'm just going to have a little bit of a bad day sort of thing, accept it. But then I got to the night time, I was like, right, I've had a bit of a bad day today. Tomorrow's going to be a little bit better. But like I said, it's easier said than done. Just flipping your mindset like that. It does take a lot of time and stuff to build up to that point. But yeah, the best thing to do is just to talk.
It's important what you said as well, though. Like for people who might think they're by themselves with it. It was once described to me, I always remember it, of it's Superman syndrome. If you almost think you are the only person in the world that is going through that or experiencing that. But actually, when we take that first step, which is probably the hardest step in terms of saying, do you know what, I'm going through this and I need a bit of a hand, whoever that is, whether it's somebody you know or it's a complete stranger through a helpline or service or whatever, actually, we find out that we're in a collective of people who have either been through something similar or just empathize with what you're going through and want to try and help. And you know, it's not about fixing things, but actually sometimes just standing with somebody or saying, do you know what, Tom, let's just go for a run and talk crap. Do you know what I mean? So I think that first step is sometimes the hardest step, but it's the biggest step as well.
No, 100%. I was going to briefly touch on, just to kind of summarize the podcast in terms of obviously lockdown and just in general, some of the things that you found in terms of, it might be a routine thing that you do, or it might just be, could be anything. What kind of helps you keep your mental health in check overall, especially when you are feeling like you're slipping down into like a darker sort of mindset? I'll let Tom, do you want to even just one or two things that you found to help you?
Very, very honestly, my PlayStation. Just having that kind of time to switch off, it usually 2 hours at a time, just go on with a couple of my mates and my brother and act like I'm 15, 16 again. Like, and I think, like, in terms of football being taken away from us as well, that's kind of replaced that a little bit, because that's bringing the competitive nature back, and stuff like that. So that's actually really helped. I don't obviously go on every single night, but if I do feel like I need to go on, I'll just go on and sit on there for a couple of hours. And I think people get a lot of stick for still at like 23, 24, 25, however old you are, still going on the PlayStation. Like, but do you know what I mean? It's completely normal. Do you know what I mean? And in terms of just something else, I would probably say exercise. Just exercise in general. Because I mean, before before the first lockdown, I was a little bit overweight, and then I found a routine that I was able to stick to. I found a diet plan that I quite enjoyed and stuff like that, and I managed to lose the weight that I wanted to and get back fit. And then once lockdown came back, I don't think I've ever felt as good as I did. Once we were able to go about and socialize and stuff like that. So I think those two things, especially, I would say have probably been mine during lockdown.
Perfect. Go on, Matty.
I think a big one for me is acceptance and like allowing myself to feel whatever I'm feeling. For years, I would just push things down and mask it over with football and stuff like that. So if I have a shit day, like you yesterday, Brendan, just have that shit day, just have that off day. Whereas normally I would try and mask that and go over the top to make myself feel better, surround myself with happiness and stuff like that. But actually, no, you're going to have them off days. You're going to have them times where you might need a bit of a cry and stuff like that. So I think I'm still learning it, but that acceptance and understanding where I am, kind of, I picture myself along a line of negative and positive and where I am on that line for the day. So I think that checking in with myself, that's why I really like what we're doing in terms of the check-in stuff, because I can kind of do that. So yeah, the acceptance, the checking in is really important for me. I check in with a lot of people during the day, even just to say like, how's your day been? And then like with Tom, they'll ask, how's your day been and stuff like that. So I think that's a big thing for me. You can probably tell I like to talk. I do. I talk a lot. And I think that's what I've found hard with lockdown, is not being able to be sat in the office with Tom and just talk and utter nonsense. So I think I've had to kind of reinvent that almost. So I think that's been a big one for me as well in terms of the communication side. Exercise is massive. That's massively helped. But I think the communication side, and I think it's very easy to go a day and not really speak to anybody while you're kind of locked in, locked up, however you want to phrase it. So communication's massive for me, massive. And I'm, again, another one I'm still learning. There are still times like where I have to check myself, because I'll go to tour, but then I'll just pretend I'm fine. So I have to challenge myself on it, and it's a process at the end of the day.
100%. It's interesting because obviously everyone's got their own individual ways of dealing. Like Tom, you mentioned obviously the PlayStation. That's a great, that works for you. Who cares if your mom complains, or if your mate is like, you're 20 God years old, why are you still playing it? That's your social time. That's your time to switch off and enjoy yourself. And if that works for you, that works for you. People are going to be different. You might have a random thing that nobody else has ever heard of, and people might think you're weird for doing it. Do it if you feel good for it. Never mind what other people think. Stick to what you know. And like you said, accepting like you're going to have bad days and stuff like that is one of the best things you can do. But I think that comes with like life experience. Some people have that life experience earlier in life. Some people might not have it until the later. It takes time to learn that and being able to understand like, right, how am I feeling? What have I done previously to get me into a better mindset? Or do I need to just say like, look, I feel like this. I'm just going to take a little bit of a time out, and then a few hours, another day, I'm going to reset and go again. So there's different things. And there was one thing as well that we were briefly touched on about social media. One thing that I found, because I'll get into the rut of social media, especially during lockdown, when you do probably have a bit more time to yourself scrolling through your phone. Just take some time off it, because it's easy to compare yourself to other people. And I had a conversation with another PT the other day. We're just talking about like, oh, you've been busy with stuff. And he's like, mate, not really. Like, I haven't really been doing that much. And I look on social media and see people who are putting stories on training clients outside. They've got 50 plus online clients. I'm like, God, they're really busy. I need to be like that. I need to be like that. No, you don't need to be that. Like your journey is a little bit different to everybody else's. You might be on a different path. Like one day you might get there. One day, like the minute, you might just need to chill out and just be like, accept you're at a nice little level at the minute, but things are going to start opening up again. Gyms aren't open for another few months. Just you'll be busy then. Not everybody else who you think is successful is as successful as they are. So just kind of focus on yourself, focus on your own life, and taking time off social media, just deleting Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is, taking just a few days off it can be a nice little refresh and focus on yourself.
Yeah. Screen time was the best and worst thing for me.
Yeah, I know.
Actually, it made us realize how terrible I was on it. But actually, it made us do something about it. I know you, in terms of social media as well, Tom, you've kind of took a step back, haven't you?
Yeah, it was a few months ago now, maybe a month before Christmas, I think. I just came off. In fact, I didn't even come off. I just deleted the Facebook app. So if I ever did need to go on it, I could go on the internet on my phone and go on it that way, which is obviously a bit of a clout on. But I don't find myself just sitting and scrolling through Facebook. I've still got Twitter and Instagram, and that's it. And I know someone who I sort of supported a little bit through lockdown and stuff like that, and they would post constantly on Instagram, like just stuff that no one even needed to know. Like they didn't, I don't even know what they were posting for, and they didn't. When I spoke to them about it, they didn't know who or what they were doing. And I'd said to them, I said, first thing you need to do, because obviously when they started struggling, first thing you need to do is stop on Instagram. Don't stop completely. Allow yourself maybe 20 minutes to sit and scroll through it just before you go to bed, when you get up, one time in the afternoon, and then just try and stop posting. And they didn't for like, I'm going to say 4 or 5 months, and straight away they felt the difference massively. And I think that's because obviously social media obviously is quite a bad place, especially at the minute, but you know, it can be really good for you. You can get some support and stuff through social media. You can get so many helpful tips. You can see stuff like this on it and stuff like that. So it can be good. But also you need to realize it can be good for you to just stop altogether. And like you said, Brennan, even if it's just on a night or a weekend or a couple of days, like you'll feel a massive difference for it.
Yeah. Have you guys seen The Social Dilemma? You probably have, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just,
it's like it's how we measure happiness. It's how a lot of people measure happiness. It's how people measure success, but it's not real. Like it isn't real. And you know, I'm a big advocate of social media, and I know for like you with your business and stuff, it's massive, isn't it? And in terms of reaching people you might not have reached and all that sort of stuff. For us, we can engage with people and encourage conversations, but like unfortunately, and we're all guilty of it if we're on it at some point, we compare ourselves and we measure what success and happiness is on it, unfortunately. And it's getting worse.
Oh mate, it's getting worse and worse. Like especially lockdown with the screen time thing, you can notice how much more you're on it, just scrolling, and you get into like rabbit holes, or like clicking on someone's profile and then it leads to someone else, and you're like nosing around, oh, what's this person doing? What's that person doing? Like, why are they got so many followers and stuff? And also in terms of like Tom, what you said about the person you're on about in terms of just constantly posting, they're probably looking for that dopamine hit, because when you're getting likes and stuff and the little red things popping up, you get notifications. It's like a dopamine hit. And there's a big thing that I'm a believer in the morning as well, which I didn't mention. Try not to go on your phone for like the first hour of the day, if you possibly can. I know obviously sometimes I'll go on it and post something on my story, but I try not to look at my messages and my notifications. I have all my notifications off on my phone as well, so the little red things don't come up on the apps, just to try and avoid that dopamine hit earlier in the day. Because once you get that one dopamine hit, the rest of your day you're looking for approval of people, you're looking for something positive from people. You're constantly looking. If you don't get that from someone, that's when you start getting into like a more negative mindset. So if you haven't listened to, what podcasts? I was going to say that's a good one to talk about. What podcasts have you listened to that have helped you personally with mindfulness, with mental health? Or is there anything like a YouTube video or anything that you've listened to?
I would say High Performance Podcast. I'd say that all the time in my workshops and stuff. That's probably the main one that I because it kind of reaches everybody. It's not just about football or sport, you know. The best one that I listened to on there was Matthew McConaughey, and his kind of mindset and the way he sort of raises his kids and stuff like that. And it was almost like he was completely and utterly mad, but what he was saying in a really weird way made a lot of sense. So yeah, that one for me especially, and then the Tyrone Mings one as well that he did on there. Yeah, that's the best one I've listened to.
That surprised me as well, because I didn't know a lot about Tyrone Mings beforehand. So I listened to that and it opened my mind up.
I mean, I let Tom go first because we always message each other about the high performance podcast because we love it. I was just loading up my podcast just to see who I've got to listen to. I listened to some really random ones. So I listen to High Performance. I think that's kind of one I listen to. I've got one called Process that I listen to.
I've heard that. It's meant to be decent, actually. Got some good guests lined up, I think, in the future, though.
Yeah, so I've heard. So yeah, that's on my playlist. I listen to Louis Theroux. I love Louis Theroux.
Yeah.
But that's more my go-to of like switch off sort of stuff, as opposed to the mindset. That's just like if I'm going for a walk and I've had a really crap day, I like that sort of stuff. Another one that's a little bit kind of not as well known is one called Football Journeys. I don't know whether I sent it to you actually. It's basically two guys who I know through work, and they followed a lot of ex academy players at Liverpool, and basically how all the journeys have differed. It's fascinating. You've listened to some of it as well, Tom, haven't you? But it comes in all the mental health stuff, around injury, rejection. One of the lads ended up in prison. There's some unbelievable kind of different pathways through football and out of football. I am fascinated by everything football. I love the mindset side of it and stuff. Like on YouTube, I love the air cycling GK and watching. I mean, he's hilarious.
He's class, isn't he? He's just
a
so
kid
positive.
Living his dream. He's just a kid living his dream, and so it comes across so positive. But like even just seeing the preparation, the process of getting. I am still trying to get into like the reading side. I'm still on the Art of Resilience, which is about the guy who swam around the UK. One I've been recommended is Think Like a Monk. My dad's recommended that one. You might like that one, actually. One of the main points is about putting your phone down and not looking at it for the first half an hour, being in a process and stuff like that. So, yeah. There's loads of different things out there.
Oh, there's loads. There's another Jody, Chris Will's podcast, Modern Wisdom. He does like literally, they have topics, he gets random people on, but literally just topics about everything. But there's quite a few good ones on my mental health, mindfulness. He's big on mindfulness. And there's a one on loneliness about lockdown. I was trying to look through and try and find the name of the person. It was a woman. It was probably about a week or two ago, but they were talking about loneliness, and she'd done researches on loneliness, and she went to a hugging retreat in California, like for people who were like divorced or widowed or whatever it is, and they would go there and literally just go around and get no like sexual stuff, nothing. It was just hugs. It was literally they'd go around and like hug each other and stuff. And she'd done loads of these experiences and stuff. But she was talking about people who have had some sort of mental health trauma, whether it be someone in the family's passed away or they've went broke and they've kind of had to work their way back up. Whether you've had something like that, and then even if your life now 2-3 years down the line is kind of looking all right, you've got a happy family, kids, your job's good, you still suffer. I can't remember there was a certain statistic, but you said even if you have that sort of short period of suffering, you still suffer long term with it. Even if your life is seems all right, there's still something embedded in you. So you can't kind of fix what's happened to you in a sense. But that was a really good episode.
It's grief, isn't it? And grief goes round in a circle, a constant circle. But that's a one I was thinking about, actually, of just even like the tactileness of just having a hug. Like it's really, like, it is nice just to have a hug off somebody. Mate, it's crazy, isn't it?
I know, it's really, and that's what people are probably missing at the minute. Like at football, like hugging the lads after you scored a goal or whatever. People are probably missing that. You're probably sick of hugging your missus by now.
Yeah, exactly.
Same old people. I was still trying to look for it, but yeah, Modern Wisdom's a really good one. I'm trying to think of books that I've read. I'm big on obviously the mindset side. So I've read.
We do have to drop the Mental podcast in as well.
Oh, of course, yes, of course. I think the most recent episode was one of the best ones that I've listened to be fair. I think that was quite a good one.
Interesting guest, I would say.
Interesting, and that was pretty decent. But
a book that I've read that's really good is it's so good I can't remember its name. Matthew, what's its name? There's two.
Matt Haig. Reasons to Stay Alive. No, it's the other one.
I've read the second one. On Notes on a Nervous Planet. Like really, really good. I read it, and it's literally just short little stories and stuff like that, and just basically his sort of it's almost like a journal that he's written, but it just gives you a kind of different aspect and outlook on life. Whenever people sort of talk to us about mental health and stuff like that, I always point them towards that book because it is really, really good. And the way I found out about that, and this is kind of another thing that I've just thought myself that actually I find almost comfort in, and I take bits from it to help myself out in my own sort of routine and stuff. GQ's YouTube channel, they do a thing called the 10 Essentials, and they've got a sport one, or they've got just like, it's usually rappers and stuff like that, but they go through the 10 essentials, the stuff that they couldn't live without. And it's usually stuff like trainers, jewelry, watches, phones, stuff like that.
All the
but
important
find
stuff.
like little gems. Like I was watching Will Poulter's one, who said Notes on a Nervous Planet. But then like Kyrie Irving, he's done a good one. I've watched his one about 10 times. And it's given me little stuff in my own routine and life that I kind of hold on to, like a journal or a notebook where I literally just write shit down. But actually how important that is for me and stuff like that. Yeah. So they're really good as well.
I think the more that you kind of surround yourself with all these things, all these sort of books, podcasts, YouTube videos, the more you invest and look into them, the more, more addicted you kind of come to them, because it's so interesting once you kind of get hooked on them things. You want to learn about the mind and learn what these successful people do, but also you learn more things that you can put into your own life, like these books. Like I'm trying to think ones off the head. Like I was going to say the David Goggins ones in terms of his mindset is like ridiculous. Even books on like mankind, like Sapiens, like learning actually how, like, where we genetically come from and how our brain actually used to work, and maybe why we function the way we do in terms of our mental health, in terms of not wanting to be alone. Like we thrive being in tribes, but then there is the odd person who does kind of work better on their own. So all that, like maybe understanding life a little bit more, anything like that you can invest in and take your time out to look into, it's gonna not only educate yourself but also help with your mental health, and maybe when you are in suffering times.
Definitely 100%.
Do you two have a little look at the last 3 questions that I sent you asked all my guests? 3 questions.
I did. Yeah, really hard. Like I still don't even know my answer, I don't think.
You're gonna, and everybody does this. Everyone like answers the question, they're like, afterwards the text is, I shouldn't have said that. I should have said someone else. I want to say someone else. But just off the top of your head anyway, the rest of the world doesn't rely on it, so don't worry about it. So 3 people you'd like to invite round for dinner or go out for a coffee with. Go on, Tom, I'll let you, no pressure, so, you can go first.
I've already mentioned him, and I've already probably specified the reasons why. Matthew McConaughey. I would love, I mean, let's be honest, the sound of his voice is absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
But actually, like, just sat for that hour listening to him on that podcast was just like class, and I think I could do it over and over again. I'd love to be his wife. And then in terms of mindset, because I'm much like Matthew, really sort of obsessed with mindset and stuff like that, especially not just in football but sport in general. So Michael Jordan, obviously after watching The Last Dance, just realizing how ruthless and stuff he was, and probably still is, just in terms of like trying to be successful and stuff. I think that's just, I'd love to pick someone's brains at how they can actually be that much of an arsehole but successful at the same time. Yeah. And then the last one would probably be Guardiola, because I love him. I'm reading a book about him at the minute, and I just like absolutely love him. Not just in terms of like the football he gets his teams to play, but just again his mindset and his real desire to be sort of a successful person and stuff like that. But actually what I've found out is how much he's really struggled, and how much he struggles within himself, and kind of how he's sort of built different relationships and stuff like that. I think those 3 people, if I could just sit at a table with them 3 and sort of slouch back in my chair like that and just let them 3 talk and just listen, that would be class.
To be some conversation. I was going to say, was Guardiola, was it after Bayern Munich he took a big period out? Was it after Bayern Munich?
It was after Barca. So the part in the book where I'm up to, he's just left Bayern and he went straight to Man City, whereas he had a year out between Barca and Bayern.
Yeah, because he kind of won everything, didn't he, at Barca?
Yeah, well, he won, and then when he went to Bayern, he never won the Champions League. But actually, the statistic with his Bayern team and stuff like that, it's like so unbelievable. But like no one likes him over there.
Really, because he didn't win the Champions League.
Just because they kind of never built a relationship. It was I think they kind of knew that it was a process that he was going through in trying to get to the Premier League. He was never sort of there to help Bayern almost. He was kind of there to sort of improve himself as a manager.
Yeah. No, I get interesting that one. Go on, Matty, who are your 3?
So my first one would be Louis Theroux, because I think the way he is able to get conversations out of other people, that would be good. But like, he's met some of the most fascinating stories. But I think he could get the rest of everybody else around the table to talk that little bit more. This is probably the most unbalanced kind of group of people ever. My next one would be JME, the grime rapper. And the reason is not so much about his music, but if you listen to him and his mindset and stuff like that, he is fascinating. So kind of he just makes music when he fancies making music because he loves music. He isn't really about the fame, although he kind of obviously is in the public eye. Keeps his family behind kind of closed doors. Like he just loves he loves Pokemon. Like he's bought loads of like £10,000 Pokemon cards, but not because he wants them to be worth more in the future. He says if they're worth £10, that's fine because I'm not going to sell them. They're for me. And he seems very somebody that is just happy with his self-worth. He's vegan. He's very like questioning. If you listen to podcasts, I'll send you a podcast he's on called Halfcast. He's fascinating, genuine for what you think he is in terms of like this roadman sort of. He's not that stereotypical, and he just oozes like that. He loves life. So, and then my last one, and Tom's kind of stole it, would have to be Pep, because I just think he screams everything that we adore in terms of his appreciation of football, his love of football, obviously his experiences. He was coached by Sir Bobby, which is always a positive. And like even that interview he recently did about the FA Cup game and saying, you know, we all came from there, we all played in them non-league grounds, we were all getting changed in the bars and stuff like that. So this isn't anything new, and he's just somebody I'm fascinated by. I would love to just spend 5 minutes with him just to even feel his aura. He's got that aura, hasn't he? So yeah, I think a very diverse kind of group of people, but people I'm very fascinated by.
Yeah, that's some good.
Even just touching on Pep, I think I'm going to talk about him again because I love him. I think if we invited him to come and watch a game that, even if Brennan ever signs with Durham United, if we ever played in the same team, I think even if we invited him for a game, he'd be so invested in that. Not just being like half-assed and thinking, right, when can I go home? I just get the idea that he'd be so invested in that sort of, even that level of football.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'd love to see like a big manager like that actually drop down, even just like a few leagues and try and get a team up there, like start from like a national league and work their way up, see what they could actually do. That's when the true test would be, rather than going to a team that is like multi-million-pound pushing for Premier League, pushing for Champions League. It's going down. Well, when someone's actually going to do it, I don't know, but it would be really interesting to see. Yeah. Maybe Durham United, you never know.
Maybe,
mate. Right, go on. Last two questions. So 3 people you'd want to train with, either gym related, football related, whichever one you want.
Matthew, you're first.
So person I've always admired football wise, the person I've loved watching so much is Fabregas, in terms of like the way he moves around a pitch and like his understanding of the pitch and like how he looks around. So I think I would love to just spend some time with him, him and probably Gerrard, just because he was the one I always adored, and I think his no lose mentality. I know it didn't always come off that way, but it was always about achieving things, high standards. You know, you listen and you read up people that have played with him, and there was never a day off. I don't think he doesn't come across as somebody you would enjoy training with because he made it fun. But I think like that mindset and that drive, I would love that sort of kind of force from him. And then for me third, I think I am somebody who I like to enjoy what I'm doing as well. So like somebody like Gaza being around here, somebody like that. I mean, I love everything about what Gaza was. It's still, I don't fully understand it because we were quite young when Gaza was around, but like he's somebody I absolutely love because he just loved what he did. And, you know, obviously the association in Newcastle, and to see kind of what he's become and obviously how much he struggles is so hard. But I think he's the one, he's just a free spirit, isn't he? So I think to be able to train with somebody like that, I don't think you get much done right. But I think, Fabregas, Gerrard and Gaza. And I know that's a football one, but I have to go towards football.
I was going to quickly say, if you listen to Gerard's podcast with Jake Humphries on the high performance, if you listen to that one, you can really see how badly that slip hurt him. Do you not he's just
unbelievable.
He just didn't really want to talk about it too. You could tell it that must have killed him at the time.
Yeah, and it still does.
100%.
He talked about he thinks about it most days, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's crazy how that has that long to be fair, nobody would have probably realized how much it probably impacted him until that interview. That's the great thing about these podcasts and these interviews. It opens your mind up. I didn't know about Tyrone Mings in terms of his mental health, in terms of what he's doing outside of football. It's great seeing what actually goes through the minds of these people at the top level who you probably think, oh, they're just think football, and they make a mistake one day, it doesn't really matter to them, and then they move on. It's not everyone's human in a sense.
Exactly.
Go on then, Tom.
My first, I kind of try to not go down the football route too much with these three, but it was difficult. So the first one is Jordan Henderson. Obviously being a Sunderland fan, very, very biased towards anything that he does. But just in terms of, I think we were talking about before, Matthew with the grime rapper of keeping his family very secret and stuff like that, and things. But just little stories that I've heard of him, just in terms of how good of a captain he was last year, and putting his arm around people like Adam Lallana when they were injured and stuff, and just, I don't know, he just seems like the kind of person who you'd want around you in your life to really sort of support you. But then at the same time, you get so much drive and motivation off him. I just think that he would just be fantastic to have around, and just to have a conversation with him in terms of his fitness, because I think actually his fitness is something that is very underestimated, just about how actually fit he is. And obviously with him being a Mac, and we can talk about Sunderland, so that would be good as well.
Slate Sunderland a little bit.
Massively resilient as well, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Henderson,
definitely.
In terms of where he was, he got hammered being at Liverpool.
Yeah. Well, he nearly went out on loan to Stoke and Fulham, didn't he? And was obviously made captain a couple of years later. But I think just I think I've probably said that more just in terms of what other people have said about him, especially the Adam Lallana interview when he left Liverpool. It actually drove him to tears, just talking about Henderson and just how big he was for him personally. So yeah, he would definitely be in there. Next one, I will put another Sunderland player in there just because I'd love to just have a conversation with him. You two probably haven't heard of him. Luke O'Nien. Now they signed him from Wickham a few years ago. He's just come back off loan. From injury. But he just seems like the nicest kid ever. Always open to sort of do anything for us. Matthew, he did our campaign for us. He sent messages to my mum's hospital and stuff like that during lockdown. And I just think he just seems like an unbelievable kid to just again have around you. So yeah, and to be fair to him, he's absolutely ripped. So I'd obviously have to.
I might get him on, mate, if he's in decent shape. Might see if I can get a PT session with him.
Definitely say yes. But yeah, he's absolutely ripped. So obviously, I need to pick his brains that way. And then with the last one, I put Michael Jordan in terms of mindset and a different kind of sport. I was going to put LeBron in, but I've gone down the basketball route already. So Cam Newton, he's the quarterback for the Patriots now. But I've recently just watched the All or Nothing when he was at the obviously the Amazon thing, when he was at Carolina Panthers. And I think he's got a lot of struggles been on a bit of trouble off the sort of the pitch or away from football. But just his drive and driving the rest of the team, just what people were saying about him, and his sort of humor and humility when he's working out and he's doing his stuff, and he's not a very serious person when he is in sort of the training arena and stuff like that, but he's so driven and stuff like that. And I just think, again, to just pick his brain and sort of see how he does things would be fantastic.
Yeah, solid few guests. And then last one, Mike, I'll let you go first. One thing that you'd say yourself 5 years ago.
Put the stick down, and I'll explain that. So I can very easily beat myself with my own stick and tell myself I'm doing the wrong thing, I'm making the wrong decision. Actually, sometimes just put the stick down. Give yourself that little bit of a break. Have that bad day. Struggle. You know, make that bad decision every now and then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're only human, mate. 100%. Spot on. Go
Exactly.
on.
Exactly.
Tom.
Probably just be patient and have a bit of patience, and don't sort of worry too much about how my actions affect other people. Like, be selfish every now and again. Like, I think a lot of the decisions that I've made, not so much in the past couple of years, but before that, were based more around making sure that people around me were happy and I was fulfilling what they wanted of me. But just be patient and just be yourself.
Spot on, mate. No, I like that. Lovely way to finish, fellas. So I know you obviously, if you care, shares on Instagram. What else are they on? They on Twitter? I don't have Twitter. I'm not on anything. Website
Instagram,
and everything.
Twitter, Facebook, website, full whack.
I'll put that all down in the show notes, and if it's on YouTube, I'll put it in the description. Do you want to shout your own Instagrams out and social medias? I don't know if you've got a few followers, might get one. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, can do. If you want to see pictures of food and dogs, then more than welcome to. That's about it. All that comes on our content, isn't it, Tom? But yeah, 100%. More than happy to put ours on as well, mate.
Yeah. I'll tag yours down below. But guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Some great topics talked about then. I think it'll should do pretty well. No, I appreciate you both coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure, lads.